Hello guys, I am Alim Karim, and today I'm going to present a session as fast as possible on ASP.NET MVC with the database first approach with Entity Framework 6.1. So prerequisites for this session: C# object-oriented programming, relational databases, and so on. So the links will be given in the video if you don't know any of those, so you could check out. And we will make 4 videos for few topics. So first one is basics, database first approach, beyond the basics. Then ASP.NET identity concepts, which concludes the role management or user management system, and then go beyond the basics, where the regular developer or in a regular YouTube video you don't find those topics. So we will cover those in the last session. So we will start with a simple MVC project. So here I am in my Visual Studio. I just created an MVC project with an identity of individual users. That's it. Since we're using a database first approach, so we need a database. So let me create a database from my SQL Management Studio. So I'm here in my SQL Server Management Studio, and I'm connecting to SQL Express. So here I have my existing databases, but I will create a new one for this purpose so that you understand that what's going on inside the database rather than going through a previous one. So owner, so it will create a database, and then I will design my databases through this diagram. I always follow this convention. When you have a table, the primary key name should be table name and ID. Let's say a person can be an employee. So this one should be go as a primary foreign key relationship, and just I pull it on, so I have my primary foreign key relationship. Student will be inherited from person. Let's say sometime a student can be employee as well, because sometime a student can be a teaching assistant, and that way he or she will be an employee. So if that's the case, then student, let's say student will have some grade information. Let's say CGPA should be, let's say, float. So if a student is a type of employee, then it should be really like optional, because a student and student will not be always as an employee. So what we can make is end-to-end join. And we'll keep a property. So we're done. Now let me import that database to my project. So first I'm going to get the database from my computer. Okay, so I'm here in my data folder. So let me detach my database. Let me just stop the SQL Server. Okay, so SQL Server is stopped. Let me try again. Okay, so let me just go to the Visual Studio. Include that database, and then inside the model, I'm going to create another folder called entity model. Okay, let me just give a name, database first, approach, choose EF designer from database, choose select my database, and give entity name as in the config. Okay, inside that I'm going to choose all the tables. So here I have my database generated model. So if I now click here, you'll see that all the entities has been derived from that model, which is great, by the way. But there is a downside, and the downside is, let's say I add an annotation. MVC is about that if you write in one place, it should be fan out in every place and work it in every view and everything. So let's say I add a display name property. Now let's say I create a controller. So if I just go there, you'll see that in the properties there is a container name. So this is used as your context name. So if I run the project, so if I go to people, I get a nice index. If I create new, if I give a person ID, it shouldn't scaffold. Maybe there is some problem in their T4 template. So let me just write the first name as a first name and last name as last name. So if you see here, you'll see the name that I have given inside my model. For date, let's say I gave a date like this. So it's added. Now if I go to my database, you'll see that the person is created. Still, we're not happy. Now we need something more. So let me create the other controllers for the project very quick. Now that we have scaffold every table from our database in controllers, now we can just execute and see what it does in real world or in the project. So now if I go to, let's say, students, we could create a student based on the person is given. Let's say 3.4, let's say 3.4. Let's say create another person. Let's say it was people, right? So Elias Roman Robert 111. Okay, so it's not really generating because I made a mistake in the database, and the mistake was I forgot to make it auto incremented. So that's why the ID is keep showing. So that was my mistake. So you can fix it by going to the database, opening the database. Now if you just write identity 11, you'll be fine, and you have to update it. Okay, so my database is updated, so I have to do it for all the others. So we have updated our every of our tables. Now I have to update my model. So what I do is, if I have small changes like the property changes, I could really just go and click the update database and click on OK and finish, and it will update everything. However, if the update is complicated, let's say you have added and changed some few relations with previous tables, then sometimes the entity generators fail to generate or sync with the database. So that time what you should do is delete every of the table or every of the schema, and then again run the update model from database. Select every table, click OK, and you are fine. But there is a downside. The downside is every time you make a change in the model, it replaces or regenerates every of the classes or entities. So remember that I have added a display name property here. So first name, it was gone. And it's not because that I have updated from the database. Let me just do a small change by dragging any schema. If I update it and save it, you will see a message pops up which really saying that which will reload the person because it's really updated again. So you can see the property is gone. So that's the downside of database first approach, but we're going to solve that problem in our next video. So to see all the columns, all the controllers in live, let me generate those very quick. So let me just delete those and create new ones. So if I click on create, I'll see that the person ID is gone now. So let's say Alice 2 Roman, and the date is again 11. We don't care about the dates now. And let's say edit again, and let's say David Roman. Let's say we have 2 persons, and let's say we create an employee against those persons. We select an person, and then we assign a designation. So we have to really create as a designation first. So let's say admin, 50,000 US. Something like that. So let's go to our employees and create, select manager. Manager is not admin, is not a teaching assistant. Save it for now. So let me create another one. Let's say David, he's our, let's say, admin. So in real world you have to really use jQuery to make all those make smooth, because the user is not going to select the admin. They're going to choose the designation, and from the designation you are going to auto select the is admin property, something like that. So that's up for another video. We're not careful for now, or we don't care for it now. So let me create some students. Okay, we made another mistake in the table design. So the design should be like one person can be as one student, but we have end-to-end joins. So let me just fix those very quick. So we're going to attach a database, and this time we're going to select the project directory. So we have select our project directory, we have got the database, and when you're attaching it, you should select the owner from SA, because this will solve the problem of your diagram designing, because if you don't choose the SA, you cannot modify the diagram again. Okay, so here you can see the join is N to M, so we need to make it 1 to 1. So go to the relationships and okay, so go to the index and then add a key, and that key should be that your person ID, and that should be unique. That's it. Now you'll see that there is a 1 to 1 join. Okay, so now we're done. And yeah, one person, one designation can have multiple employees. That's fine. So if you now close it, just run it, we will be fail to do that. So the idea is you again go to the management studio and then take the database offline and then use detach. So you have seen that I have failed to log on to the database at the first entry. So if that happens, the solution is touch the database again and then give a name, attach as, and then again go to the task and detach it, and then if you try to log in, you'll be successful. Okay, so to solve that problem that we have just seen, I have did it on purpose so that I can show you a solution. The solution is to not to get connected with the SQL Express. So what you should do is get connected with Visual Studio server name, so which is the local name that's given, this one. So if you use this one, you'll see that I'm connected, and in here you'll find that any of those will be your database. So that's it for this basics video. So you see some problems. We're going to solve that problem in our Beyond the Basics session. So you guys can find us fb.com/developersorganism, and I am Alim Karim. You could mail us if you have any